国际的局势快速变化，台湾更要继续以稳健的步伐向前迈进。
President Lai Ching-te makes his first New Year address. The Coast Guard says Taiwan's Kinmen Islands saw record-breaking activity by Chinese ships in 2024. Corruption crackdown as the Yilan County chief gets over a decade behind bars. Plus, cities around Asia welcome the new year with fireworks and also some tears. A warm welcome to TaiwanPlus News. I'm Betty Chen. President Lai Ching-te spent the first day of 2025 at his first flag-raising ceremony as president. Thousands turned out to watch the event despite the early starting time and cold weather. Leslie Liao was there.
A new day, a new year. Thousands of people have gathered at Taiwan's presidential office to mark the first day of 2025 with the traditional flag-raising ceremony. People arrived before dawn, braving chilly weather to witness President Lai Ching-te and Vice President B. Kim Xiao ring in the new year.
在台北那么久也没有过来升旗过，所以反正就是还有时间，就想说过来看看，要不然
新的一年，然后就是想说来体验一下升旗典礼，然后感受一下。
第一次来看那个101烟火，想要都已经1、2点了，就干脆来升旗一下。
对，我们要走得过来的，从信义走过来。
对，
走多久啊
？1小时。
1小时。
因为我们爱国啊，台湾 No.1。
This is Lai's first New Year's flag-raising ceremony since becoming president, but he did attend last year in his capacity as vice president. In his first address to the nation in 2025, Lai wished the people a happy new year.
各位国人同胞，我们同甘共苦，荣辱与共，我们一起流泪欢笑，我们都是一家人，都是 Team Taiwan。
The celebrations started early and will continue on throughout the day. A highlight of this year's program is a performance from Indonesian migrant worker band Jubah Hitam. Their inclusion highlights the important role migrant workers play in Taiwan's society. Aside from performances, there's also going to be a market, movie screenings, and seminars, all to celebrate the beginning of 2025. Justin Wu and Leslie Liao for TaiwanPlus.
Lai used his New Year address to urge Taiwanese people to keep walking firmly on a path of democracy. He spoke about achievements in 2024 and said the same Team Taiwan spirit is needed this year. Joyce Zeng breaks down key messages from the president's speech.
国际的局势快速变化，台湾更要继续以稳健的步伐向前迈进。
In his first New Year's address as president, Lai Ching-te encouraged the Taiwanese people to keep demonstrating to the international community the value of the country's democracy. Pointing to wins in technology, the economy, and world-class sporting events in 2024, Lai said Taiwan's efforts are being seen and praised despite continued coercion by neighboring China, threatening to take the self-ruled nation by force. Last year, Beijing launched large-scale military exercises dubbed Joint Sword around Taiwan after 2 of Lai's major speeches, viewing the elected president as a dangerous separatist. Looking ahead, Lai welcomed exchanges with China, but questioned Beijing's goodwill, given it limits things like Chinese tourism and visiting students to Taiwan.
我们欢迎跟中国进行 对等尊严、健康有序的交流，不必采取这些方法因为这对两岸的交流合作跟取得台湾人民的信任是没有任何帮助。
Lai and his ruling Democratic Progressive Party, or DPP, have also faced major tests domestically. Despite winning a historic 3rd straight term in top office, in the legislature, they lost their majority. Lawmakers clashed physically on multiple occasions over opposition party Kuomintang-led reform bills, supported by the smaller opposition force, the Taiwan People's Party. Lai recognized party factions are a part of democratic politics. He urged the resolve must be in line with the Constitution.
立法院所通过的争议性法案，行政院有权提出复议。
Lai says 2025 will be a challenging year for democracies, with ongoing wars in Ukraine and Gaza and threats from authoritarian regimes like those in China and Russia. Despite the challenges that may come, Lai affirmed that Taiwan's values in freedom and democracy, which have earned it global trust and partnership, are the country's only way forward. Andy Xue and Joyce Zhen for TaiwanPlus.
For more on Lai's New Year's Day speech and one given by Chinese President Xi Jinping the night before, Alec McDonald spoke to Taiwan-based political analyst Courtney Donovan-Smith.
Donovan, yesterday, President of China Xi Jinping held his New Year's Day speech, while early this morning, President Lai Ching-te of Taiwan held his New Year's Day speech. What marked differences in tone did you notice?
I think actually of the two, the one that was a little bit more flowery and positive sounding, at least, was Xi Jinping's, actually. He literally started out quite right near the beginning, talking about, we've seen winds and rain, but we've all seen rainbows. It was also shorter, which was interesting. However, a lot of it was just propaganda. A lot of it was just outright not true. It was also considerably longer. I think that the important part of this speech, and it may go down in history depending on how things pan out going forward, in the tussle between the opposition parties and the DPP. Very specifically, he brought up that he intended to follow the Constitution. He reiterated this in no uncertain terms, which means he's signaling that he's going to go ahead, with the laws passed, although he did specify that he's going to bounce them back to the legislature to be reconsidered, which is a constitutional right.
I want to go back there to something that you said at the beginning, where you noticed Xi Jinping used a bit more flowery language. Do you believe that this is because President Lai Ching-te, inside a democratic system, and because of the challenges that he is facing in the legislature right now, has to talk a bit more frankly and use a bit more substance to reach out to his constituents?
Well, yes. I mean, President Lai is accountable to the public. He was democratically elected, and so therefore is accountable. So I think that it's a little bit more in his interest, and for the interest of the country specifically, is for him to use this platform to talk about issues of substance. Now, of course, a lot of it is patting himself and his administration on the back, which you're entitled to do if it's a little self-serving. But he did also, bring in some substance, which is important. And, when given a chance, it's good to see, the president communicating issues of substance.
One of the cross-state relations matters which President Lai brought up was that he would like to see more exchanges with China. What do you think is behind the strategic positioning of this inside his speech? And is he positioning himself where he is offering a position of goodwill?
I think that he wants to position himself as appearing to be conciliatory and as offering an olive branch. However, I think he's pretty certain that, the Chinese side is not going to, might accept a little bit of this. Now, on the other hand, I do think that also is, in many ways, was more of an olive branch to the KMT and the TPP as well. I think he was sort of signaling to them that he's not hardline. He's also signaling to the Americans and also people locally, as well as analysts and journalists, that he's not the hardcore, rabid independence activist that he's been portrayed as.
That was Taiwan-based political analyst Courtney Donovan-Smith. The main opposition Kuomintang or KMT held its own New Year's flag-raising event outside party headquarters. In his speech, KMT chair Eric Zhu criticized President Lai and the ruling Democratic Progressive Party's actions in 2024.
尤其是赖清德政府之下，只能用一个字来形容，就是斗。赖政府、民进党斗在野党。 斗全民，以少数甚至是双少数要斗多数，而两岸同样的要斗，不断的斗。
Zhu also stressed Taiwan's connections to China, saying the people of Taiwan are of Chinese heritage. He called for unity within the country in a year ahead for the peace and prosperity of Taiwan. Former Taipei Mayor Ko Wen-je has officially resigned as chair of the political party he founded, the Taiwan People's Party, as he faces a corruption trial.
那今天我们开这个临时中央委员会，其实最重要是我个人要请辞党主席，因为我不可以让这个冗长的司法程序，你知道模糊焦点那干扰整个台湾民众党的发展。我不希望整个党被拖累，你知道
It marks a significant political humbling for Ko, who ran for president in 2024 on the platform of disrupting Taiwan's two-party system. Ko won more than a quarter of votes in the election, but last week he was indicted on corruption charges. TPP legislator Huang Guochang will take over as acting chair until the party can hold a vote on its next leader. A record number of Chinese Coast Guard ships breached restricted waters around Taiwan's outlying islands of Kinmen in 2024. New figures have been released on the intrusions, as our reporter Haneo Kan now explains.
Taiwan's Coast Guard says that since February of 2024, there have been a total of 52 incidents where China's Coast Guard breaches restricted waters in the outlying islands of Kinmen. Sources in the Coast Guard have confirmed that that is the highest number that they've ever recorded. Kinmen is one of the closest islands to China, sitting just 4 kilometers off the coast of Xiamen. This area from the start is already very prone to law enforcement activity from both countries trying to monitor their borders. The issue stems back to February of 2024 when 2 Chinese fishers died in a chase with Taiwan's Coast Guard after they resisted a search. Since that moment, China has been using more of its Coast Guard to harass and pressure Taiwan. These tactics of combining the Coast Guard, law enforcement ships, and other fishing vessels to put pressure on Taiwan is not just happening in Kinmen, but all across the country. It's part of Beijing's gray zone warfare strategy to put pressure on Taiwan without having to use the military, creating a gray area in how Taiwan responds to these threats, which is usually with just a warning.
You have entered ROC Taiwan restricted waters without permission. Your actions have destabilized maritime order and security of ROC Taiwan. Adjust your course and leave our restricted waters immediately.
Some of China's Coast Guard ships have already participated in large-scale military exercises earlier this year, and there's a growing concern that Beijing is learning how to best fuse together the Coast Guard, law enforcement, and the military to maximize the pressure it's putting on Taiwan. And so for the Coast Guard here, which has a much smaller fleet, it's going to be a growing challenge to manage that aggression going into this year. Leon Lien and Jaime Okan in Taipei for TaiwanPlus.
A South Korean cryptocurrency mogul has been extradited from Montenegro to the U.S. after a lengthy legal battle. 33-year-old Do Kwon co-founded Terraform, which operated 2 cryptocurrencies, Terra USD and Luna. Both crashed in 2022. Kwon is accused of deceiving investors around the world and causing them around $40 billion in losses. Kwon, who denies any wrongdoing, is facing fraud charges in the U.S. Fireworks, prayers, and hopes for the new year. Nations across Asia ushered in 2025 with elaborate displays and performances. Harrell Hughes reports.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, here we go!
Welcoming the new year with a bang. Across Asia, millions of people celebrated the end of 2024 and the beginning of 2025. With countdowns and fireworks, drone shows, performances by native-born international artists. In Western Asia, fireworks and cheers reigned over the Syrian capital Damascus in the first New Year celebration in 50 years without an Assad in power. While in the east, a more muted approach in Japan, with the traditional ringing of the bell at midnight to mark the end of the old and bring in the new. Happy New! In Taiwan, the iconic Taipei 101 exploded in color at the stroke of midnight. And just down the street, thousands of people brought in the new year with a Taiwanese classic movie and tears. Replicating the film's last scene, where at this location, the main character bursts into tears in the early hours of New Year's Day. No matter how the occasion was marked across the region, there are high hopes for 2025.
और बहुत अच्छा गुजरा अभी और जो है 2025 है उससे हमें बहुत अच्छी उम्मीद है इंशाल्लाह बहुत अच्छा रहेगा और हमारे पूरे पाकिस्तान पर अमान और अमन रहेगा
सभी लोगों को एक मिलजुल कर रहना चाहिए और अच्छे से नए साल का जश्न मनाएं और बहुत अच्छे से मतलब अच्छे से लोग रहें साथ में मिलजुल कर खुशियां बांटें और नए साल का
อยากเห็นสันติภาพอยากเห็นแบบโลกสวยงามขึ้นอะไรอย่างเงี้ยค่ะแล้วก็แบบชาวโลกทุกคนแบบมีความสุขทุกคนค่ะ
Whether through fireworks, prayers, or tears, millions of people across Asia ushered in 2025 together, welcoming the new year with open arms and shared hopes for happiness, peace, and new beginnings. Delphine Chen and Harel Hughes for TaiwanPlus.
Coming up after the break, a humanitarian project from a Taiwanese NGO brings shoes to remote communities in Kenya.
The brands you know, some have untold journeys. The things you're familiar with, some have stories you've never heard. These brands bringing you a comfortable life, sweet memories, everyday convenience, and the enjoyment of good health. All come from the same place.
The Made in Taiwan story, every Monday, 8:15 p.m. on TaiwanPlus.
Welcome back. You're watching TaiwanPlus News. An NGO in Taiwan has been collecting old shoes and donating them to remote, underserved communities in Kenya for over a decade. They've since expanded their mission to 12 countries across Africa. Wesley Lewis has more.
A mountain of boxes of donated shoes fill this warehouse in northern Taiwan. Local NGO Step 30 is shipping them off to rural communities in Kenya. But first, a group of young volunteers has been tasked with sorting the good from the bad.
能帮他们弄鞋子好像也不错，但是有些人的鞋子真的都是寄了一些对他们没有帮助，就是希望大家可以认真挑选完鞋子再寄过来。
他们就是需要保护脚啊，拖鞋就没有全部包起来啊，就是有可能还是会有风险。
And this is where the donations are headed. Without proper shoes, people here are susceptible to tongiasis infections caused by sand fleas, which burrow into skin to lay eggs, causing itching, difficulty walking, and can even lead to death in extreme cases, especially among young children. It's a common issue in resource-poor, marginalized communities in tropical regions. To help alleviate this problem, Step 30 has been providing treatment for those affected by tongiasis and started their annual shoe drive.
我的岳父他是一个加拿大的传教士，那是我们学校里面的孩子双脚溃烂，因为被沙蚤感染。那岳父买鞋子给他们，那当然不够，所以后来我就在台湾知道这个消息，然后我们就募集了很多台湾人的鞋子，然后送到非洲去。
Yang Yo-ren has been spearheading this initiative for a decade now. Over the years, Step 30 has treated over 50,000 people with tongiasis and provided shoes to over 3 million people in remote communities across the African continent. They say they are committed to working with local community leaders to address the most pressing concerns.
Of the foreign NGO coming in and solving what they thought was the problem, the locals know the problem better.
Mudenyo says many young children in rural Kenya, especially girls, are forced to walk several kilometers to fetch water, multiple times a day, exposing them to parasitic sand fleas, among other dangers. Beyond donating old shoes, Step 30 has helped construct dozens of wells in rural communities and schools in Kenya and 11 other countries in Africa. Their mission over the years remains the same: to supply underserved rural communities with essential humanitarian aid, and to hopefully give disadvantaged children a leg up. James Lin and Wesley Lewis for TaiwanPlus.
Just over a month ago, Taiwan won its first major international baseball tournament at the WBSC Premier 12 Championship Final held in Japan, and the excitement still lingers. Sandy Chi caught up with one of the team's star players to talk about the historic victory and what it means to him.
Victory for Taiwan at the WBSC Premier 12 baseball tournament, as the country's men's team claimed top spot for the first time in an international competition. And for pitcher Lin Yu-min, it's all still a surreal experience.
我想哭可是哭不出来，因为感觉还没有反应过来，因为这对我们来说其实是一个梦，所以我觉得有点很不可思议的感觉。
21-year-old Lin is one of the top pitchers from Taiwan. He's expected to start the 2025 season with the Reno Aces, a AAA minor league team in the U.S. state of Nevada. Lin is known for his diverse pitching repertoire that has attracted attention in Taiwan and now internationally, especially after his performances in the Premier 12 Championship. Throughout the tournament, Lin remained positive and optimistic for the team, despite fans doubting Team Taiwan's chances. The roster had been thinned out, with several star players unavailable due to injury and other issues.
当初我觉得其实看到这种阵容的时候，我其实蛮开心的，因为我觉得就是可以为以这次的比赛去做一个经验，然后让这些选手更有经验这样子。
The team beat South Korea in their opening game and eventually advanced from the group stage at their expense. Taiwan played Japan 3 times during the tournament, losing the first 2 encounters before stunning the hosts in the gold medal game. Throughout all of this, Lin took it upon himself to find ways to bring the team together.
Baseball 是一个 team 嘛，是一个团体的比赛，不是打个人的。那怎么支持？我觉得就是相信自己的捕手，相信自己的内野手、外野手。
And now, with this Premier 12 Championship title, Lin says the tournament has taught him a valuable lesson.
其实这一次就是让你学到一个永不放弃吧，梦想也会发生的东西吧，梦也可以就是实现的东西。因为其实对旅外旅美的选手都知道，对我们来说上大联盟是一个 dream， 我们不敢去奢求，我们只希望可以去靠近它一点点而已。那其实经过这一次12强之后，我觉得。 上大联盟不是在一个 dream 而已，不是只是一个梦想而已，我觉得是真的可以达到的东西。
With the dream now showing promise of becoming reality, Lin wants to make his mark on the sport.
一个选手，他绝对不会去模仿另外一个很强的选手，因为我觉得你这么做已经不是你自己了。像今天大家说，哦 ，Shohei， 我想跟他做一样的动作，跟他穿一样的。 品牌，然后做一样的东西，那我就会变下一个Shohei。那为什么你不要变下一个自己，变一个新的 superstar， 然后去比过Shohei？
Winning the Premier 12 tournament is no easy feat, and for all the players, it's an experience to savor and remember forever. And it won't be long before Lin Yu-min is back on the mound, striking out the opposition and holding his future in his fastball flinging hands. Luffy Lee and Sadie Chi for TaiwanPlus.
The Taipei Zoo has welcomed some new members to its animal family, 5 bush babies, a small primate from sub-Saharan Africa. Cadence Quaranta reports.
A new year and a new beginning for this bush baby, one of 5 brought into Taiwan illegally, and now settling in to a new home at the Taipei Zoo.
有2批的话，大概是从县市政府有从民众非法饲养那边有查气进来，然后另外有1批的话是从海关那边，就是机场的从外面来的。
Native to sub-Saharan Africa, these nocturnal animals need specialized care, and zoo officials say members of the general public who will likely lack training should not try to raise them. They could harm the animals' health by feeding them the wrong food, or by raising these normally social creatures in isolation. The rescued bush babies, which naturally live in forests, have been put into the zoo's indoor rainforest exhibit, a new home that is now open for visitors. Patrick Chen and Cadence Quaranta for TaiwanPlus.
Thank you for watching TaiwanPlus News. You can visit the TaiwanPlus website or follow our social media for more stories from Taiwan and around the world. Finally, today we leave you with some highlights from New Year celebrations from around the world. I'm Betty Chen. Take care and see you next time.